Hi everyone, it's Andy from Hobby Headquarters. Today we're going to be starting a little bit larger than normal project. This is a new 35th scale kit from Takom. This is the V2 transporter and erector. It comes with the Hanomag tractor for towing on it. It looks like a really nice big kit. So we're probably going to have to break this up into two videos so we don't have too long of one video. So the first video will probably be the Hanomag and the V2, and then followed up for the second one will be the transporter erector type system. It also has the system that holds the V2 into place. So we should build up with quite a large display. So excited to get started. I've been waiting for a couple months for this kit to come in, so let's get started on it. Before we get started on the build of the V2, I got a couple of little surprises that came into my store that I thought I would share with you guys today. This is a piece of track off of a Panzer III-4 chassis. It may have even been off of Sturmgeschütz. And this is a piece of Winterketten. And Winterketten, of course, is this big extension that they put on here to help with ground pressure as they were going through the snows in the Eastern Front. Just want to kind of give you guys a little, just the size of everything. We always look at it in 35th scale and see how tiny it is, and just shocked to actually see it come in full size. Now I have an ice cleat in here too that we're cleaning up right now. That was kind of messed up, but that would plug right in here. Then we'll flip this side over, and you can see it's in actually a pretty good condition for a piece of track of that age. It's got the solid horn, of course. And just a big piece of track. Now, the reason I show you this one first is because the next one I want to show you, we're going to kind of slide this back. So we're going to put that piece back, and the next one I'm going to show you is a little bit larger. This is a piece of Panther track, and it is very heavy. It's probably about 65-70 pounds just for this one piece. Just a massive piece of metal. I'm gonna try to flip it around here. Camera's a little bit in the way as well. You get quite a bit of a workout moving this thing around. And you can see now this has got some of the ice cleats right here. So this is a later war piece of track, probably off of a G or a Jag Panther. And we even got the rod, the track pin, excuse me, and this piece alone probably weighs about 5 pounds. So just a massive piece of track in comparison, and especially if you compare it just if this wasn't an Ostkett, you know, just a regular Panzer III track, Panzer IV track, just a beast. Kind of laugh a little because sometimes we take for granted as modeler the size of some of the things that we're dealing with. I don't know if when you've ever built a Panther before, but you lay out the tracks and it just, you know, weighs nothing obviously, and you're messing around with it, and then you realize that if they had lost a track or threw a track or anything, the amount of time and effort that it would go to, especially lifting something so heavy as this. Or when you see on the side of a Panther the tracks that are laid down the side for extra armor, and you know, you've got 5 or 6 tracks on there, you're dealing with well over 300, almost 400 pounds that those guys had to lift up, not only up on the vehicle, but then up into place on the turret and stuff. So just makes you really think when you see the size and you actually get to lift something like this. I'm telling you, it is a massive piece of metal. So I hope you enjoyed our little show and tell feature on some of the German World War II tracks. Now we're going to jump right into the construction of the vehicle, starting with the engine and the frame. Started the assembly on the engine, and you're going to have to pretty much go out of sequence based on the way the instructions tell you, because if not, you're trying to balance the tailpipe here with the tiniest little connection point. So I think it's going to be easier to go ahead and put the engine mount in first, and that requires to put in the front of the engine as well, which they don't say to use for a little bit. So once you mount this in, the engine itself will lock into place, and then we can go and attach this portion of it too. This way it'll connect much easier to it and you won't be struggling. So before I put this in, I'm going to go ahead and finish filling this and sanding it and getting it all ready, and I'll come back and show you what it looks like after it's done. Did a little bit more forward looking at the instructions and found that before we attach any of these other pieces, including the muffler and tailpipe, we're going to actually attach the other side of the bracing for the frame. And I just found after studying it that once we do this, it'll make a much more solid piece to work with, and then we can get all of these other little pans and things inside, because they just don't want to sit properly unless you're going to have the entire thing snapped together. So once again, we'll move ahead a little bit in the instructions and skip some of the other parts, but attach them all together so we get a nice solid frame. Now with the pipes all attached, we can go in and attach this lower pan from the back here. Just if you follow my instructions on this, I think it'll be a lot easier for you to put it together than trying to do it the way they show it on the instructions, because it's so many pieces that are just hanging by virtually nothing. So we'll glue this in, and then the last thing you have to do is just put the and the last thing we'll put in is the drive shaft. Okay, I have all the suspension arms, the leaf springs, ready to go. One other tip I'll give you. Earlier in the instructions, again, it's calling for to put this gearbox right onto the drive shaft earlier. I found that it'd be easier to attach it to the differential back here, so when you go to put it on, it's going to fit properly. If not, it's kind of just dangling there by one little tiny piece of plastic. So now we're going to go ahead, and I've got all these pieces sanded and ready to go, and we're just going to put all those on right now. The rest of the construction of the engine compartment and transmission is pretty straightforward. Also keep in mind that this Hanomag kit is actually produced and sold separately. That if you just want to use it as a artillery tractor tower or anything like that, they do sell this separately as well. Going to start building the cab, and also just point out to you, as you can see, I've assembled most of this. At this point, they wanted you to go ahead and put the wheels on, and I chose to leave them off for now. I did some experimenting, and the wheels will pop on and off okay, but this way we can go ahead and paint the inside of the rims and all that part, and not have to worry about getting paint on the tires. I would have preferred if these would have been the plastic tires, because just over time, I know sometimes the rubber tires deteriorate. Hopefully these won't, but this will be easy to pop right on and off as we get forward on it. So we're going to go ahead and glue the rear fenders onto the back here, and you'll notice too I've left off all the accessory parts, and I just found that it's easier to put these parts on last, and for the main reason that if you put them on last, you have less likely to knock them off as you're assembling the kit. And I've been doing that a lot lately, it seems like. So we'll go ahead and put this piece on, and then snap the other one of these into place. Maybe. Oh, there it goes. And then this will just drop into place here. Okay, what I'm going to show you now is kind of skipping a few of the steps and that's just strictly so we can paint much easier later on. So we've attached the back for the spare tire. Now I put this on just to show you guys. We're going to pop the rubber off so we can paint the hub separately. I've also assembled all of the seats, and we're going to leave those out separately too, so we can paint them all as well. And we can go ahead and attach this, since this is interior color. This will get attached right in there. And we also have done the fuel tank goes down this way, and then like the storage container on the back. And what I'll do now is I will glue all those parts into place. We can also glue this as well. It's kind of looking like a 30s rat rod for the United States, that aside, I will glue all these parts down. We will leave the chairs, and like I said, separately, and we'll paint those because we want those kind of be like a leather color. Okay, I have another little building tip here. The front hood and the sides and the radiator are multiple pieces that they want you to put in individually. I was measuring it out and practicing on it, and just found this is going to be really difficult to get a perfect angle down on all this. So what I went ahead and did was glued all of these 4 pieces together so we have the correct angle on all this. So when we go to plug this in, it is just far simpler just to plug in this one piece, and it kind of just snaps in. We'll put a little glue on it because there's not many connection points for these side louvers. There's one right here, and then it doesn't really tell you where it's supposed to connect inside of this. So I just found it's going to be a lot easier just making this whole piece, popping it right on there, and it'll go together much easier for you down the road. Okay, I want to give you guys another little building tip. I've been messing around with this now for probably about 2 hours, having a little bit of difficulty getting everything to line up. Part of this is because when they broke this kit apart, they've broke this into quite a few number of pieces to build the driver's compartment, the hood area, like I showed you earlier. It is not impossible to work with. It's just a lot more difficult getting everything lined up. So what I figured out is once we attach the top to the front here, and then we have the hood on here as well, not to attach any of this stuff, because you need to build these door assemblies that need to pop into place here. And if you're off even slightly, the door assembly is not going to fit into place. So I found that once you keep this separate, you can come back later on and we can glue these into place, and then we'll be able to glue all of this down, and that'll tighten everything up and get it nice and square and straight. That all can be moved up as well. So we'll glue all that into place. But we still have the situation that we have to paint the interior of the vehicle as well as the seats. So I'm going to build both sides of these, keep them out. Also, we want to be able to get the glass in too, because the glass snaps in from the back. So I'm going to probably at this point, now that we have most of the assembly done, we're going to go ahead and start painting some of the vehicle, painting the interior, because there are pretty big glass windows on this. You're going to be able to see quite a bit inside. So I'm not going to glue attach any more of this stuff. So we'll just assemble the other one of these and start painting the interior, and I'll show you how it all goes together after that. So I spent the last about an hour or so just putting on all the extra accessories that we had left off earlier, like the mirrors, the indicator poles, front lights, the steps in the back, all those things. Now like I said, this is still not attached up front here, so we can still get those other parts on. I'm going to paint the entire thing with the black and white shadow coat, but I'm not going to paint the interior at all, because that's going to be a lighter gray, and I no use in putting that inside there. And we'll also have the doors set up as well, and we'll paint that all at once. All the pieces now are painted with the black and white, and you can paint this vehicle in multiple different colors, from the German gray to dark yellow to even a green color. I think I'm going to choose the German gray, like the box art shows. I think we can do some nice some variation. I haven't done much German gray stuff lately, and the trailer will look as good as well as that. Now the missile will be camouflaged, of course, But we're going to go ahead and spray everything now with a German gray. Well, here's one side of the vehicle pretty much put together. I've installed the glass on the sides and the back. The front still has no glass yet because the other side of the vehicle is not attached. I'm going to put the glass in next. Another little point, I'm changing my thing about putting the tires on. I would not attach any of the hub at all to the kit because it was very difficult to get the rubber on over it, especially on the dually in the back. So still don't put the rubber on just on the tire. Just keep the hub off, the wheel itself, and paint that and then glue it on. That would have been a lot easier. Because you ever have one of those modeling days where everything you do just goes wrong? Well, that's been today for me. So I ended up breaking a few parts here and there on it. Got it all put back together. So it's just been, because of all the individual little pieces right there, it's been a little bit difficult in some areas, but I think we've got it looking pretty good now. I clear coated the entire vehicle also before I put the windows in. This way the paint is completely sealed in, so when we go to weather it, we won't have to worry about taking off the paint job we already put on. Now I'm just going to finish up a little bit more of the painting process, putting like the white dot on top of the indicator poles, and then we'll go ahead and put some decals on for the license plates. Seal the entire model one more time, and then we'll hold off a little bit on weathering because we'll do the weathering the same time we do the trailer because it's the same color. And now we'll go to work on the V2 rocket. Okay, after building the Hanomag, which kind of gave me a little bit of difficulty here and there, as I told you, mainly because of the number of parts that go into making up that cab. It's going to be very, very nice to start working on the V2 rocket because it's primarily about 9 parts plus a couple of other little tiny little vents and things like that that'll be easy to put on. We'll get started on gluing all this up together, starting off with the lower portion, and then we'll get to painting on it. We're also going to build in this rest of this video the little launcher platform that would hold the V2 into place. So let's get started on the rocket now. I was telling you we're going to start with the lower part of the rocket. Now you hopefully can see that there are some indicator pins on here for attaching it to make it nice and straight. I was dry fitting it a little while ago and noticed that there's a little bit of flex in the rocket, so you want to make sure that you line up both sides of it very, very well so you get a nice round shape. And then we'll of course go put a little extra glue down the inside, and we'll go ahead and finish this off. Let this dry. I'm going to let this dry actually for a little bit longer than we normally would. That way we're for sure going to get a nice straight surface on it. After we have all of this glued together, the bottom piece, put a little glue around the inside lip here, and then the exhaust nozzle will fit right inside here. Just like that. And now we can go ahead and start working on the tube, the major part of the tube. This will be the only part that'll be a little bit of difficulty just getting it all to line up because it is such a large piece, but I think if we do a little bit at a time, it'll work out okay. Now, although we're putting glue on the entire piece here, it's evaporating pretty quickly, so what's going to happen here, we're basically just softening the two halves of the plastic together. There'll be a little bit of adhesion between the two pieces, but this is more or less just going to soften it enough that we can get it nice and straight. And then after that, we'll start working our way from the inside with this brush first, then we'll get a longer paintbrush and finish all the way down the inside. And that should get us a nice smooth contact all the way around. So I am going to go ahead and finish up with this, get a longer paintbrush and do the entire inside, and then the last little part up here we can actually do by just carefully just putting a little bit right on the edge, and you can see how the capillary attraction just wicks it down, and then just give it a squeeze. just like that. So we'll go ahead and finish up the rest of this right now. Next we have the connection ring that's going to connect the top and bottom together. And that just simply fits right in there. And there is a pin on both sides, so you can't get it wrong, and there's only one way to put it on. We'll make sure there's enough glue on here that this thing holds really well. And you can see the little notch right there, then there's the pin. And there it is. Now I've started using my foam sanding block to just lightly go over the seam that we had in there, just to knock it down. We don't want to go too heavy because we don't want to remove any of the rivet detail on here. But this one is pretty much done, and we still have a little bit of the seam that would go up the side of the rocket, but it's pretty smooth going down there. So now we're going to go ahead and attach all of the fins, just like that, and we'll put on all the other little pieces and then show you what it looks like. I was messing around with laying the fins down, and I noticed that a perfect way to get all of your fins lined up is if you have a cutting mat with the grid already put on it, that you can get all of the fins perfectly straight by lining it up to your grid. Now that the fins are dry, there is a seam that's quite large on a few of the fins that I want to fill in. So I thought this is a perfect opportunity to show you my all-time favorite plastic putty, and it's the stuff made by Vallejo. It's got a very, very fine tip, and what we can do with this fine tip is just put the thinnest little bead down. Bit on that area right there. Now, the best part about this is water-based putty. So you can use your finger and just wipe down the surface there, and you can see how good it fills in. And then you can just take a little cotton swab dipped in water and just clean up any of the excess on here. You can get it out of all the little nooks and crannies that you don't want it in, and leave it in the ones you do. And you can see just how quickly you can get a nice fill on a seam. Now we'll clean it up a little bit more, but great putty, has plenty of work time. Plus, because it's water-based, you really have a chance to get in there and fix it and do what you want with it. And you can see we can just wipe off the excess here. So all the seams have a pretty good sized crack in most of them there, so I do want to fill those. I like the way it's going to look with like that. So I'm going to go ahead and fill all of those in now, and then I'll come back and I'll show you what it looks like. So after all the putty dries, that's the kind of look you'll get on it, and that should paint up really nicely. Now we're going to move on to the assembly of the platform that holds it for launch. Okay, we're putting the leveling jacks up now for this launcher, and you've got to be very careful because as you read the instructions, I'll move this out of the way, you got to keep it very close attention to what you're doing because during the instructions they're flipping the base plate around, and if you don't get the pieces in the right directions, it's not going to line up later. So just keep an eye out as you're doing that. Now I'm attaching quite a few of the big pieces first before we attach some of the little pieces because we're messing around with a lot of it. I don't want to be knocking any of the little pieces on, so I'm going to do the big primary parts assembly first, and then we'll go and put all the little toe hooks and latches and things like that on. So I'm going to go ahead and finish the rest of this up right here. And as we go to attach it, I think it'd be easier to attach it upside down. This way you'll be able to line up all the little pegs inside of it. And there is a distinct way that it goes, so we'll try to get it on camera here as best as possible. So we're gonna, and I didn't let these pieces right here dry just for that one reason, that I knew that we're gonna have to be fiddling around with them, and if they dried solid, it's very difficult later on to get them in the right position. So you can see how it's all starting to click into shape here, hopefully. So I'm going to go ahead and finish putting this together, and after this dries I'll come back and show you what it looks like. Now that we have all of those little arms in place, which I have to admit was kind of difficult actually. It was a lot of little pieces moving around. Now we can go ahead and attach this final ring. Now it's not completely dry yet, so we're not going to mess with that, but the V2 will fit right inside of here, and that's what will hold it up. So I just went ahead and attached all the little tiny pieces now. We've got the little jack handles put into place, as well as these little pieces right here that'll hold the louvers on the bottom of the V2, as well as the top of the jack stands. That holds right up inside there. And I tried to get these pieces to be as close as possible in the gluing phase to meet up with that, but it's going to have to be close enough on that because I didn't want to glue them directly to the V2 because it is still going to get attached to the loading platform as well. So now that we've spent all that time, and I have to admit took me a little bit longer than I thought to build this. There was quite a few parts on this. We're going to go ahead and paint this gray, and I thought about, of all the different types of paint schemes on this, I'm thinking I'm going to do the black and white tone on it with the checkerboard type thing. So let's go ahead and start painting. So I've taken our Mission Models paint and mixed up a separate bottle of it, so we have the thinner and the poly already mixed into it. Well, another nice thing too about this kit, it stands very, very nice and firm, so we don't have any problems with it falling over. So now we're going to go ahead and paint the entire thing white, and we're going to do that because we're going to do the black and white check on this model. Now we're going to paint the launch platform the German gray, just like the vehicle and the loading platform will be. I put 3 coats of white on the V2, let them dry, and then I've also clear coated it with Tamiya's TS80 flat clear. And the reason we did that is I want that paint sealed in really well because we're going to do the masking now to get the black on the top and then in checkers on the side. I've got the masking done on the bottom and the top. We're going to leave the middle blank for right now. It'll just be too hard trying to mask around it. So we're going to do this top portion and the bottom portion in just regular flat black. Okay, the first part of the masking came out great, so now I've just left this last little panel to be painted black. Okay, now if I mask this correctly, we should have our checkerboard pattern that we were looking for. Yep, looks like it turned out pretty good. Just the way we wanted. So now I'm going to put a coat of dough coat on that and seal all that paint in. Okay, I finished up the camouflage, as you can see on it. I think it turned out pretty well. Not going to do any weathering on this video, strictly just the build of the rocket and the Hanomag. Plus you can see some figures out in front, give you kind of a size of scale. So I want to thank you as always, and please stay tuned because part 2 will be coming out very, very soon. Thanks for watching.